All right, today I've got Andrea with us. Andrea, I would consider you a fairly successful, if not very, very successful, independent freight agent that you work with my company, Pearce. And I wanted to kind of share your story a little bit because a lot of folks are often asking, like, hey, what does it take to be successful as a broker? And you were kind of one of those people that you came from a non-traditional background, right? So a lot of folks, they'll start off as a W-2 employee at a brokerage or whatnot, and they'll go off on their own and be an agent. You kind of had a different path. So give me the rundown and kind of the down and dirty story of how you got into brokerage. And then I want to kind of get some tips from you, what you think will have helped kind of shape you into being the successful broker that you are.
I was in the Coast Guard, and when I got out, I started very traditional as a dispatcher for a private trucking company where we had 80 trucks. And I had a sign over my desk that said I was $26,000 in debt every day. And that was to try to get all the trucks back to where we needed them to be. So that was a great motivator. I still have that sign. We definitely, I've gone kind of various routes that I think really helped make me more successful as a broker. And that is that after that job, I've been a warehouse manager. I've been a logistics director for mostly food and beverage, which is kind of my niche kind of market, which is one of the things I always, give other people starting out as a broker, find that niche of what you're good at and what you know.
Yeah.
And then I went into the maritime logistics side of things for about 7 years, where I worked on a boat, I organized crew, I organized containers. Almost everything you do can be related to logistics, but then when you have to actually get all those contacts and customers to come to you and want you to move their freight, it's a totally different ballgame. And a lot of that comes down to the fair pricing and the carrier relations.
Definitely.
That's how I got here.
Yeah.
And I interviewed with you and said I checked off none of the boxes that you wanted. And then I had to tell you why it was awesome.
It's not really the traditional style. So like a lot of times, you specifically being an agent, right? A lot of times the companies, when they're looking at bringing on a new agent, they want someone that has direct brokerage experience and also has a brokerage book of business to bring to the table. And a lot of companies would have said, no, you don't check the boxes. But, in talking with you, having a diverse background and especially knowing that you were working directly with customers and you could easily, I believe that you could transition it over into a brokerage role. That's why I thought it was a good fit, and it clearly was. I mean, you're killer and stellar when it comes to customer management, as well as always trying to get new business, which is something that you're always hustling to find the next new customer and solving people's problems. But you also take care of your carriers very good too. And I think you have both sides of the equation that a lot of brokers maybe don't connect the dots on, and which kind of leads to their downfall. So that's why I say you didn't check all the boxes, but you still made it work. So I think there's always that subjective part you got to look at when you're hiring somebody, or if you're adding an agent into your brokerage. So, but yeah, and obviously, what I always thought was interesting with you is the you went dispatching, warehouse, and then you just moving boats. Which I still
then we went to moving boats. So, well, it gets cold up in New England, so
right. And so here's something I want to hit on too. So you're in the New England area, and you have so a lot of your customers they do business in your area. Do you think that makes it easier for you that you can go visit them, or that you just understand the geography of it, or is it just the way it kind of happened? Some people just prospect all over the country. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
right. Well, I do what I know, which is always kind of key. And I've had some people call me about, flatbed or this or that. And I just know the nuances of food and beverage. And particularly, New England is where I'm from. My uncle was a truck driver. My dad was a fisherman. So I understand the nuances of those things. So it's not easier, because it's never easy to get a new customer. And I always want 2 more customers. 2 more customers is the number. Mm-hmm. But it's something I'm very familiar with, and it's such a crazy time right now, and all these logistics managers are getting 25 phone calls a day. So if I happen to know the nuance of, a whitefish versus a squid versus, beer versus champagne or any of those things. That seems to really help and benefit, my skill set, and it also helps me engage with the customer.
Yeah, that's what, and you brought up having a niche earlier on too, or niche, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But I think that's key. People, I think a lot of young brokers, they start throwing darts and they see what sticks, and I don't think it's always the best way. We always recommend, think about something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy doing, which in your case is either,
food and beverage. I love
food and beverage, right? It could be the alcohol side of it. Maybe it's just the fact that you also enjoy working with folks that are in your area. So that's you can call that a niche or a niche as well as just a geographical space.
Well,
so.
And you get to know the guys that are coming in every week. So like the carrier relations, which I think is almost as important, if not more so than the customer, is to have the guys that are reliable. And there's a lot of crazy stuff that's gone on in the last year or two. So to be able to have those carriers that want to call you first when they're coming this way is kind of key.
Yeah, that's huge, especially with the fact, like you said, the last year or so, when a lot of the capacity is not being posted up on load boards, right? These carriers, they might go on there and they might cherry pick loads that are posted, or they're just calling their whatever broker they want to use or whatever customer they want to use. And, hey, what you got? Because they could do that. So, lastly, to wrap up here, any little tips to success, or just kind of best practices that you think is you'd recommend for someone that's newer into brokerage and wants to succeed like you have?
Well, we just signed on somebody new, and that literally every Tuesday at 4 p.m. for a year, I emailed them, for 9 months. And I wasn't overly pushy, and sometimes I would just say things like, you ship beer, I ship beer, I want to ship more beer, and just kind of be very light every week and send him information about like what was going on in his area, and just saying, hey, I've noticed more capacity or less capacity. And it took 9 months to actually get him to sign up on board with us. And the other thing that I have had great success with is I constantly look at help wanted ads for logistics directors or transportation supervisors in my area. And then I contact those customers because obviously they need help with their transportation, because they're looking to hire somebody that's going to be in charge of it, whether they're replacing somebody that's retiring or any of those things. And they always seem more open to a conversation when they're in that transition.
You're not the first person to tell me about that second part with looking for the help wanted ad. That's huge. I think the other part of it is obviously they need help, but you've also you're likely going to have a fresh person in there that isn't necessarily loyal to another brokerage, right?